So this is contest season, and or by some reports. And okay, so what's a contest? How do I do it? What it seems to be a center part of ham radio, but what do I do? I'm a new ham. I have no idea what's going on, or I'm an old ham, and this thing's been bugging me for 30 years. And so we thought we'd invite our contest chair, if you will, the guy who reports on the contest every week, Dennis, to report on the what's going on with contests. And with that, Dennis, turn it over to you.
All right, so Greg asked me to put something together on contesting, and contesting is a lot of things to a lot of different people. So I thought I'd just kind of put something together and plus slides, but I've got the information tucked in here. And I do have references at the end of the presentation of everything I'm talking about. So if you happen to see something go by that you want more information about and I don't answer it with that last slide, then we'll go back to it. So first of all, I want to talk a little about what is contesting. Contesting, like I said, is different things to different people. And I've run into people that just said, well, in fact, I've talked to a couple of them on the air that just say, I would never contest. That's not even having a QSO. All you're doing is giving an exchange and you're gone. It's not even a 10-second contact. What kind of ham radio is that? So yes and no. I mean, there are people that live and die by that. And then there are other people that, want to add a little more to it. And so as we go through here, hopefully I'll open up you avid contesters' minds a bit. And those of you that know nothing about it, maybe we can talk about why you might want to consider it. There's a lot of things involved with contesting or events, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll also talk about how you get into it. How can you start? What do you do? What's the first thing you do? Well, having an antenna, of course, but you don't have to have something like this. This is W7RN in Reno, Nevada. This is what you call an avid contesting station. These folks, it's kind of one man, Tom Marina, but he has a group of people that assist him. And as you can imagine, this station takes an enormous amount of maintenance. There's cranes coming in all the time, reaching to the top. He's got 2 elements on 80 meters at this station. So most of these antennas, multiple towers, are that way because they don't rotate. Basically, you can see they have antennas pointing in one direction and antennas pointing in another direction. So they can switch from one direction to another by pushing a button on the console. This is part of the station, and I thought to give you a look at a really full-blown contest station, just so you can kind of get a feel for the station. And this is just the partial on the right-hand side here to the very right of that slide. There's 2 K3s, and actually there's a third K3 a little bit farther to the right. Pan adapters. Right above it here are antenna controls and different CW memory controllers and that sort of thing. Lots of stuff going on here. Over here on the left, this is a fully automated remote station that you can, if you remember, log into this station and operate it remotely. I've actually operated the station on a couple of contests. It is a ball. I mean, when you call somebody on this station, you're pretty much going to get an answer. So I talked about what contest is, different meanings to different people. Well, if you owned a contest station at W7RN, you're probably going to want to be top op in the USA, or maybe even the world. I mean, that one wall you saw with all the wallpaper on it, all the plaques, all the awards, that was only quarter of the amount of awards this station has garnered. There's a whole nother wall from one end to the other that's just full of awards. So, maybe it's the plaques, maybe it's QSLs, maybe it's a certificate, a participation certificate. And we'll talk a little bit about what that is. A lot of people will work contests and events for to get new countries. There's a couple of contests that countries from all over the world show up. It's an excellent opportunity to work different countries in the world and maybe, work towards your worked all countries certificate. Maybe worked all counties. If it's like a QSO party, California QSO party, the goal there is to work all counties in California. And then there was the grid search that we had not too long ago. So that's another thing. Let's see. The other reason people get into it is basically to explore cutting edge technology. So one of the things that you'll hear on the bands is SO2R. And SO2R is single operator, two receivers. Now, if you don't think working a contest or any kind of event with just one receiver and one transmitter, you can't begin that is a guy that has two receivers and basically actually got one radio with two receiver inputs. And he's listening to one band while he's having a QSO on the other band. So he's calling CQ on one band, talking to somebody on the other band. And as soon as he signs with the person he was talking to on the one band, he picks up the person on the other band. And he just keeps doing that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it is an opportunity to work into some new technology, and it's highly software dependent, not so much hardware, but there is some hardware involved. All right, let's talk a little bit about what some of the terms are. Pile-ups, different modes, bands, multipliers, things like that. Well, rare stations create what's called a pile-up. And a pile-up is many stations calling the one station, the desired station at one. Where'd we leave off? Rare stations create pile-ups. We talked about that. By the way, that picture there that's me out of field day in a barn. That's my son Justin, then 6WD looking over my shoulder there. So that's an early field day, probably 80 something, I think. And go ahead and tap it, Orion. So contests and events, can be in any mode, in any band, except the work bands. You very seldom see a contest on the work band. So there's different things that you have to learn, like what are multipliers? Well, depending on the contest, it may or may not have multipliers. So there are some contests and some events that have multipliers, and multiplier simply refers to you get extra points if you do a certain thing. So, for example, California QSO party, I don't believe they have multipliers per county, but if you work all counties, you can get special certificates and things. There's band multipliers. For example, if you work a station on one band and then you work the station on a second band, you get a band multiplier. Believe it or not, there's call sign multipliers. If you have a call like mine, a 2x1 call, there's, I think, one contest a year that every time you work a 2x1 call, you get extra points. You get times 2 points. Go ahead. So there's something called an exchange. So every contest has some kind of an exchange of information. There's, like, in fact, the one coming up, the sweepstakes coming up next weekend is probably one of the more difficult exchanges because there's a lot of information that you have to exchange. Some of them have a sequential number starting with 001. Some of them have a number and a report, a name, a state. This one next weekend actually has a sequential number. Let's see, a call sign. I'd have to go back and look. It's a call sign, report, the year you were first licensed, and I think your state. So it's on CW, that is a lot to send, and it's a lot to receive as well, right? So the best way to figure out what's needed for each event is to check the rules. And for every contest or every event, there's rules. And in fact, I try to put them up on the Groups IO calendar. So right now, those contests are up on the calendar, and if you wanted to go click and check the rules, you can quickly get to them that way. Okay, go ahead. All right, so what is it? I like this guy. Are you a contest fanatic? Well, you're a contest fanatic if, go ahead, you never miss one. And believe me, I know people like in Northern California Contest Club, of which I'm a member, that never miss one. I mean, they begin a point to never miss one. It's kind of like almost like going to Sunday school, at church, that people pride themselves on never missing a Sunday school. Well, there's guys that never miss a contest ever. And, wouldn't call them a fanatic. It's just a love for it. And go ahead. Do you operate start to finish? A lot of these guys, especially a 24-hour, they might go the whole time. They might take an hour off, grab a bite to eat or some kind of a refreshment. But basically, they'll go the whole duration. 12-hour contests, no sweat. Go. Do you forsake family and friends? Family and friends, these are contest fanatic. So what are you? Go ahead. Are you going to be a fanatic, or are you a faithful operator? And go ahead. So check out this picture. So this is my friend W6RGG, used to be the Pacific Division Director on Scarborough Reef. Now, these guys pretty diehard contesters. When you can see that you go into a rock sticking out of the water at high tide, build a platform, set up a complete station with a generator, and go for it. So, for me, it's always been a little bit different than sitting on a rock with a generator. Go ahead. For me, it's always been more about making new friends. There's been a couple events that I know the club has had, one at Bob's house and a few others where, 3 or 4 guys get together. It's just a really nice multi-operator kind of event where you have a chance to make some new friends. So that's one of the reasons. Another thing is to try new equipment. Some of the field days we've had all KX3s, for example. It was an excellent opportunity for those that hadn't seen a KX3 to run a KX3. In years past, we've had all IC7300s, and those are a nice radio for contesting or any kind of event, actually. Really easy to operate, and if you're thinking about buying a radio, it's kind of like driving a used car. It gives you an excellent chance to take a look at new equipment, see what's out there. If you're like me, that last field day, I was hell-bent to get that coffee cup. Sometimes it could be something as simple as that. Go ahead. So anyway, why I really started doing it was to become more proficient on CW. But it might be, if you're a single sideband guy or a digital guy. By the way, there are digital contests. RTTY specifically is one of my favorites. It's just a great way to become more proficient at running a radio. And I remember the last contest that I worked, CW contest. Boy, I had to pull out all the stops there on my TS480 to pull out some of the contacts, some of the guys I was trying to get. So it's a big part of it, learning how to run your radio. Go ahead. One more. Again, play with friends at different events. Again, like for example, a field day. It's a 12-hour contest. It's a great time to get in with your friends and make new friends. Okay. California Custo Party, and by the way, it's not just California. Almost every state has a full party, and many of them are certainly reachable, like Nevada and Arizona, and some of those near states are just a lot of fun. And I wouldn't call these contests, but in a sense, to some people, they are contests. They make them contests. I call them an event. And there are a lot of different events. Every year, Route 66 There's some guys that set up stations along Route 66, and sometimes they even operate from their home. There's special QSL cards and certificates available. There's memorials. There's museum ships. That's a fun one. You get the USS Hornet and Alameda on the air for Museum Ships Day, and the battleship down in Long Beach. Armed Forces Day is another one. 13 Colonies is a fun one. Every year, July 4th, I think it goes for 7 days. What you try to do is you try to work all 13 colonies, and it's not easy because they're all on the East Coast. CWT, that's put on by CW Ops Organization. Oops, go back one. Basically, it's a CW weekly contest, and basically try to work as many people as you can in an hour. And they do 3 a day, 1 hour a day. SKCC, that's Straight Key Century Club, also a member of that, and they put on different contests, all with a straight key. These guys, running 8 words, 10 words a minute, really easy to participate, and much, much more. It's just a lot of fun, and you can call these contests or not. I like to call them events, but a lot of people call them contests. So, like I said before, contests are different things to different people. Look at one time. I don't know. Did the audio come through?
What?
Yeah, it did.
Okay. All right. So if you want to play, how should you prepare? How do you get ready? Go ahead. Well, the first thing you need to do once you decide what kind of an event or a contest you want to run, read the rules. Read what times, and I have trouble with this, but they publish them in UTC, and I always have trouble converting. But there are plenty of UTC to Pacific time converters on the internet, and I should just go grab one of those. Take a look at the times, take a look at what the exchange is going to be, so you're kind of prepared for that. And a lot of the programs like N3FJP and others, actually, once you put the exchange in the software, it'll come up on the bottom of the screen, so it'll remind you, so you don't have to remember. If you're going to want to look at numbers and multipliers, I'm not much of a scoring guy. I'm more of a how many contacts can I make, in the time that I want to operate. But if you're into scoring and you want to keep score, take a look at how you get the top score. What are the multipliers? There are contests where you might want to look for a specific station. Maybe it's a different states. Maybe they're given a multiplier for a difference. Okay. Plan your strategy. So there's 2 different strategies for contesting. One is called S&P. It stands for Search and Pounce. And basically, this is probably the most, the most popular and the easiest to do, because basically you're tuning across the band. You're looking for a station calling CQ contest or CQ test, and then you try to work them. Now, the only downside of that is he may be running 1,000 watts, you may be running 100 watts. So you're going to hear him, he may not hear you at all. And that happens quite a bit. So you can't get discouraged if you're running S&P. You just have to keep trying, keep tuning around, keep looking for stations that you possibly can hear, and then try to work them. So the other strategy is to run. And to run means to call CQ. Now, I know it's scary. I get butterflies every time I do it. And the real reason we all get butterflies when we do it is that we're afraid that somebody will call us and we won't get the call sign correct. Or we'll miss the call sign. Or we'll have to ask them what call sign, Hey, that's what it's all about. I've asked people 3 times on CW, to send the call sign. Maybe you only got 1 letter on CW. So you send that 1 letter. 2 guys will come back that have that letter in their call. Maybe you got 2 letters. You send those 2 letters, the guy with the right call will come back. And that's called running, and that's called calling CQ. If you want to make contacts, numbers, the amount of not scoring, but the higher number of contacts. Statistically, running is the way to do it. You will make more contacts running than any other way. And in fact, I think, yeah, never mind. Go ahead, next slide. So the next thing to do is to study propagation predictions. You want to know when to call and on what band to do it. Now there's a really nice tool, and I'll show you that here in the next slide, that will uh, allow you to predict between point A and point B what frequency is the best and what time of day. Go ahead, Aaron. So this is called voacap.com, and as you can see, I'm on the red pin right there, and the blue pin is my friend Craig in La Paz, XC2HWJ. So when I want to talk to Craig in the morning, I'll pull up VOACAP and I'll put his pins. Oh, and by the way, if you can see up here, set grid. This is the easiest way, is to type your grid and the other station's grid in there. When you know a specific station, you can go on QRZ and get the grid and type it in. If you aren't calling a specific station, let's say you want to go all the way to the East Coast. Well, you got blue pin all the way to the East Coast, and you'd immediately see this wheel here change. So if you were to look at the wheel around the outside. These are all times in UTC, all times in UTC. Okay, and then right down the center are the actual bands. So you can see right now between, actually when I did this, between my QTH and La Paz, 15 meters would not have worked very well at all. 12 meters wouldn't have worked, and 10 meters wouldn't have worked at all. But 20 meters was pretty good, and we actually made a contact that day. Okay, so this is a really excellent tool to kind of plan your strategy, because it covers the whole 24 hours. So let's say, you're working you want to work across the U.S. You drop that blue pin on New York, and it would give you your whole strategy for the whole 24 hours. You could do this for field day. You could do this for anything. Okay, next slide. Okay, so another tool that I use, and this particular screen grab that I did is not really representative of what I would talk about if there was a contest going on. But let's say you wanted to see, who was calling who. So the bold column where it says DX, that's the DX station. So if you can see, the second one down is Costa Rica, and you can see an N3 CCB called them, and that gives you a pretty good idea that East Coast is leading into to Costa Rica, but probably nobody else. Same way with the Italian station down the page a bit there. Here's Italians talking to Italians. So, but this is a good, DX Summit is a good place to go look to see who's calling who and what DX stations are coming up, or if it's a California Pizza Party, what stations are coming up there. So those are the two ways that I prepare. Actually, there's more than that. Click the screen. This might. Okay, how should I prepare? Just do it. Click it. Okay, I would say ease into it with S&P, and that goes to save whether it's a contest or whether it's an event. Either way, you don't have to call CQ. You can kind of ease into it with search and pass. It's just a quick and easy way to do it. You can listen a lot, call every once in a while. No pressure. Like I said before, be easy on yourself. Even the pros make mistakes. Believe me, I've heard guys running those big contest stations screw up. They'll miss a call, and then they'll try to move on to the next one, and that guy will keep calling him and calling him and calling him until he gets an acknowledgement, so he can get the point. So, everybody screws up. Don't be too hard on yourself. Keep an electronic log. This is really important, because at the end of the contest, if you make any kind of contacts at all, you're going to want to upload your log. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that easily is if you have an electronic log. Go ahead. The other way that I like to practice, in fact, this is, I don't know if this demo is going to run, but we could try it. But basically, there's a couple of demos, a couple of tools. One's called Morris Runner, and the other one's called RoughsXP. And I like Morris Runner, and basically it's a CW contest prep tool. And the contest is the type of contest where the other operator is sending you a serial sequential number and a signal report. Sequential number and a signal report. Pretty easy. So there's information on that particular tool at the end of this slide presentation. It's really a fun tool to use. You can dial in noise, QRN. You can dial in people breaking in on top of you. You can dial in all kinds of things. It sounds just like you're listening on a receiver on the HF band, and you adjust your speed up and down. And basically, you just copy a call sign, hit the return. It sends your report to the fellow that you answered. You listen for his report. You type in his report, hit return. You can move on to the next one. Call and CQ. A lot of fun. Okay. Next. Upload your log. Okay, you're all done. It's time to upload your log. It sounds pretty simple, but not always. Go ahead and click it. There's a couple of formats. Well, actually, first thing you want to do is look in the rules, and the rules will give you a link to which you can upload your log. And there's a little bit more to it than that. Go ahead. Usually logs need to be uploaded in two different formats, or one of two different formats. One's called ADIF, and the other one's called Cabrillo. As of late, I've been seeing that Cabrillo seems to be the favored log. And if your logging program doesn't output Cabrillo, you can always output ADIF and do a conversion. There's conversion programs on a live conversion on the web that you can just stick your log in, your ADIF, and it'll come out with a Cabrillo log, and then you can upload that. Go ahead. Once you upload it, you'll typically get an email confirmation back. So it'll just basically say, we've received your log. Log check is, or the log computer is checking it. If everything looks okay, you'll get a thumbs up. If you did something wrong, or you missed a call sign, or missed some information on a particular line in your log, it'll tell you what line that is, and you can go back and correct it. That happens to me all the time. And that's just a function of when you're running a contest and you're very busy, and you might miss something. You might miss the guy's QTH or something, and the log checker will check that. It'll tell you which line it's on. You go back in the Cabrillo log with a text editor, you fix it, you re-upload it, and you're good to go. Next. So the other thing that you might consider if you're going to run one of these is Logbook of the World. That's an instant confirmation, not a QSL bureau, but an instant confirmation that you made the contact. That's getting very popular. Most people will just upload their log to the contest robot, and then they'll also upload to LOTW with their logging software. That's something to really consider. It's a little bit convoluted to set up. Once you set it up, it works quite well. Click of a button like an N3FJP, you click a button, and boom, you're going. Clublog is the other one. I use Clublog. A lot of international contesters use Clublog. They like to go on Clublog and see if they've worked you. And EQSL, that's not an official QSL according to ARRL, but I use EQSL as well, and I also answer all of those. So after a big contest like Field Day, where I work 300 contacts, it takes me a while to get through them. All right, with that, I'm gonna field some questions if you have any.
So this is Greg, KO6GH multipliers. I'm still, I guess, amazed is not the right word. Um, if you get a multiplier for every band, and you make like a bunch of contacts on 80, and then all of a sudden you make one contact on 40, does that double your score?
No, it just gives you, for that one contact, you get a multiplier for that one contact.
Okay, so then what did I get with that multiplier?
Well, let's say it was a CW contact. You get 2 points for CW contact. So depending on the contest, you might get an extra point for that contact, or maybe an extra 2 points, maybe at double that contact. That makes sense?
That made sense, but that's so back when we did what was it? Field day. You got a multiplier for every band.
Yeah.
And
Not on field day. Field day doesn't do multipliers.
Well, I thought they had multipliers.
Field day doesn't have multipliers. They have bonus points.
Okay, yeah.
no, but there was something that I remember what it was. We were the clubs scoring using the CQP scoring system for field day contacts. That's our local thing. For the winter field day scoring system has multipliers, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so when we added up all the contacts, if I had gotten one more contact on a different band, if I had spent my time, say, trying to get something on 6 or something else, I would have increased the number of multipliers, and that would have been a better strategy to increasing my score than getting more contacts on the current bands.
For winter field day, that is absolutely correct.
Yeah, in fact, Greg, there are some contests you're working where you'll work somebody, and like I'll work them on 40-meter phone, and they'll say, "Hey, do you have 20?" And I go, "Yeah." You go, "Okay, meet me on 175. Pop over there. He's got his other receiver and transmitter already there, and we'll make a contact, and that's a multiplier.
So
I worked the same guy on 2 bands.
does it need to be the same guy, or just somebody else on 20 would have done it?
Well,
Hey, Dennis, could I take a stab at, I think, what I hear him saying?
go ahead, sure.
Yeah, Greg, each contest is different. Sometimes if you may have a multiplier based on, how many states or provinces you contact. Other contests, they'll give you multipliers based on how many bands you worked. And so there's something called contestcalendar.com, which is a great resource, which will give you a link to each contest, and you can read up on how they give the QSO points. So each one is so unique, you can't just really say, hey, this is how it applies to a contest.
That's good.
But fundamentally, a multiplier is you do multiplication. So
Greg, you are correct. You are correct. Yes, that is true.
Okay.
Yes.
So if a multiplier typically will be multiplying the total points you have, typically, but not all cases. You have to read the rules.
Okay.
That's
Brian and I screwed up on winter field day a couple of years ago because we thought, hey, it's all about getting ARL sections. What we realized was it was really all about making a contact on a different band and a different mode. That was the way to make the points.
Okay.
So you got to really study the way they set the points up. They encourage you to do certain things, and you got to read the rules and be very, very careful about it.
Yep.
Okay. So fundamentally, though, don't let that stop you. It's a great way of just getting on the air in a non-threatening. So Dennis, you talked about expanding your skills. As a new ham, the most terrifying thing is to get caught in a long conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And if you put your CQ out there, you don't know what you're going to get. In a contest, you know exactly what you're going to get. You can get the guy, you can put it in the log, and you can stop.
Good point. S&P, search and pounce.
Yeah. Thank you. Other questions?
One more thing. Most of these contests, it's a contact is an abbreviation, not the same as if you would a normal QSO. So, you don't call AI6US, this is WU6X over. You wouldn't do that. You'd say AI6US, WU6X. And he would say WU66, AI6US 599, Colorado. And I'd go 599, wherever, California. And no over, you don't say over, you don't say this is. So you drop all the minutia, and basically it's just the information necessary to make the contact.
Very good.
Hey, I've got a question, a quick one.
Go ahead.
Hey, so if you answer a some contest QSOs or some contest CQs, you make the contact, but you never hand in a log. Is that wasting the other person's time, or do they get credit?
That's a good question that I've never figured out. Wayne, what do you say about that one?
No, they still get credit for the contact.
Okay.
Yeah, they get credit.
They get credit.
Okay.
Now, there's a downside to it. If a person gets such a high percentage of non-logged contacts, that could penalize them. But generally, you're not going to hurt the guy by answering a Q. You're helping him, actually.
That's
Okay.
a-
Go ahead.
Yeah, they want to work you.
I have a comment. Do I have it?
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm Rob. I'm like not even 2 years in. And the search and pounce was one of the coolest things ever for HF. You know, you get your antenna up and everything. And if you could break into a dog pile, that's the coolest thing. You got no commitment. You can just sit out there and just, did I make it or not? And it was very good propagation test. And for me, that was awesome. But like other people say, sometimes, you do that if you have a good location and a good antenna, you do that on 2 meter sideband, and all of a sudden you might become that station. So anyway, but the HF stuff is really fun to, make contacts with all these contesters. It's real easy. You can jump in and out. There's no commitment. You're like, oh, look, I hit Georgia. Oh, look, I hit New York. Oh, I hit wherever, and you can check them all off. It's very cool.
Yeah, Rob.
The big contest stations, they depend upon a lot of these search and pounce people. They want to make as many contacts as possible, and so they're anxious to work as many as they can.
Exactly. Hey, Rob, that tower in Quad was an incredible contest station.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that for me, was really fun. And as a new ham, once you get your general and you start throwing antennas up and stuff, and you're throwing out those radio waves, it's really cool to see how far you can get. And then if you're not getting that far, then you start playing with your antennas. But luckily my location gets pretty far out. And anyway, everybody needs to try it. And I think that's a real cool, easy way to get started for anybody.
That voacap.com. I mean, when some things aren't working the way you think they are on a particular band, just go to voacap and drop a pin, on the other end of the United States, for example, and you can see in an instant why maybe a particular band that you're banging on is not working. Go ahead and do next slide, Owen. There we go. Any more questions? Here are some of the references. Actually, that reference to that contest I should have put on here too. That has all the contests listed. But here's the ones for VOA and DX Summit, contest calendar. Yeah, I guess I did put it on there. Contestcalendar.com. That's the one that I think Wayne talked about. Some of the practice software, RoughZXP and Morris Runner. And then, ARRL has a pretty darn good reference on their website under that contest.basics that I would recommend if you're a new ham and you kind of want to get into maybe not so much a contest, but an event of any kind. It's a good thing to read. But just run through it. It talks a little bit about many of the things that I talked about here. And of course, like I said, I kind of hit this thing high level, but I tried to make it interesting enough for everybody, contesters and new hams alike. So Any more questions?
Dennis, I have one quick comment. If you're interested in getting into it, just sit and listen for a few minutes, and you'll get this. You'll get the rhythm of how these contest stations are calling CQ and what kind of information they're looking for and what order they're looking for.
Perfect.
So just listen to the rhythm, and then when they call QRZ or they call CQ, just throw your call sign out there and let it go from there.
Perfect. That's perfect. That's a perfect comment.
And Dennis, this is Brian. One other comment. A lot of times people are kind of afraid. They don't know what the exchange is going to be. And they hear all these numbers, but they don't know what it means. And that's where Contest Calendar, once again, a great website, because they give what the exchange is supposed to be. So if you answer a CQ, what are you supposed to say?
Yep, that's true. And I try to put it on the Groups IO calendar as well. It's in the rules. All the rules have them. Any more questions or comments? Hey guys, thanks so much for letting me do this tonight.
Thank you.
for doing this, Dennis. Great presentation. Brian, back to you.